All right, today is Thursday, November 5th, and this is our Core Devs Biweekly meeting for Filecoin. Today's agenda, first things first, are reviewing a number of open or recently merged draft FIPs or kind of open FIP PRs. Then talking about some of the upcoming state upgrades to make sure that we're all on the same page about what's happening there. A test factors update if there's anything new or wool to share and get people on board with. General updates across implementations, Lotus, Forest, Fohan, Venus. Any changes to the FIP process, which I don't think we have anything new since we discussed last time. And then any other kind of logistical questions. I think Maxim was highlighting he might have a question about GraphSync. Deep should be joining us at some point to talk a little bit about external security audits for the various different implementations. So we can get to that when we get to that. So busy agenda, lots of stuff to talk about. First things first, reviewing open FIP PRs. One FIP that was recently merged to draft is FIP 6. I don't know if folks have had a chance to look at this one. This is a relatively small one. I believe Irene proposed this, which is removing the requirement to repay debt from when you're declaring faults recovered. Irene, I don't know if you want to give like a very short, like quick brief on like why this is proposed or anything like that, just so that we can have a little bit of visibility. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the FIP is, as you said, is quite simple. The idea is to remove. Basically, now there is this mechanism that miner has sometimes have to pay fee if they miss, for example, window post. This can be the case. Consensus fault also cause a fee, and if they don't have enough on the balance, both locked and unlocked found, what happens now is that we register the missing part of the payment in a variable that we call the fee debt. And when this variable is not zero, basically miners can't do some can't call some methods. One of these methods that is not possible to call when you are in debt is recover from faults. And this was particularly, we realized, so there was a reason for this basically. And the reason was that we didn't want people not have power to be able to mine blocks, but the cons of this, the bad consequence of this in practice was that people that are in debt now cannot recover from debt. The sectors that are faulty, they keep being faulty unless they pay the debts. They keep staying faulty and they keep paying fee. So they accumulate fee and they go even more in debt somehow. So there was this bad effect of like, especially for small miners that they don't have like maybe other funds to use to stay in debt forever somehow. And clearly we don't want that. And so we propose to sacrifice a bit of security, saying like we risk a bit of power table inflation. This is something that we are going hopefully to fix with another FIP soon to avoid this bad situation, miner being debt and being debt in a very like a bad situation where they keep increasing their debt. And the changes should be very simple because it's just, there is a check that we do when we call a method that is arguing debt or not. If we remove that check, everything should work easily.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and this has gotten, I think, some amount of review from the mining community. Folks who have commented on it have been like, yes, please, let's help avoiding having miners accumulate a lot of debt and have this like time-sensitive nature of like, I must get funds to repay my debt now, otherwise my debt gets exponentially bigger every single day. Ah, gotcha. Good call, Austin. Do anyone have comments, thoughts, feelings about this FIP in particular? Hand gestures? Various thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, it's a lot of thumbs up. Cool. Well, something that I realized like over the course of the last 2 weeks is that the FIP process, as we've described it, actually has a step between draft FIPs and accepted FIPs, which is last call FIPs. And so my general process from here on out is that we probably, when we generally think of FIP is, well approved across implementations and well approved across the community, we move the status from draft to last call and set a deadline at which that last call will end, which is like a week or two in the future, so that there's space for everyone to submit their feedback or suggest changes or modifications if desired. And so generally, if folks in this call feel good about it and the community feedback has been positive, my next step will be moving these sorts of things to last call and setting a deadline for them, which I believe is the current state that things like FIP 5 are in, which I think just went through last call. Cool. Logistics, but general idea. Awesome. Thank you so much, Irene, and excited to help miners with this one. I think the next step there as well is to get an implementation of it. I think it's relatively tiny of an implementation, but just to clarify exactly what it looks like technically. Awesome. Another open, this one's an open PR for a new FIP. So I don't think it's maybe quite ready for full review, but a nudge for folks here. If there's any early thoughts, or if you've gotten a chance to look at the add miner batch sector pre-commit method, which is a new FIP that Alex North submitted a couple of days ago. I don't know if there's any immediate thoughts or feedback here on that FIP from this group. Nicola, I see you had a chance to comment on it a bit. I don't know if you wanted to start out.
I think overall this is a very good FIP for those that haven't caught up with this. The pre-commit operation does a bunch of operation every single time you do a pre-commit. Every pre-commit does an operation, and instead, if we were to do a single pre-commit message with multiple pre-commit sectors, you would do, instead of, if you say that you want to do this for 100 sectors, you will pay this constant price. But if you can have a batch pre-commit call, then you only pay that single price once. So this drastically reduces the gas cost for pre-commits. And I don't know if you saw the blocks. Blocks are pretty full of pre-commits, and this would drastically save pre-commit gas. I don't know if this is the place where we can have short back and forth between folks. But I did leave some comment on, I think Wyatt is proposing to limit to batching 32 sectors. And I propose that we try to go much higher than 32 sectors and try to batch almost as much as possible, and wonder what the limit is there.
Yeah, I could definitely be moved. So this really came from Alex's, I think, just like security and practicality assumptions. If you see the link, I linked to what he was saying for the reason for limiting. Like I think we could go higher. It's just not sure if we need to based on the growth rate that you get. I guess it's about like enabling like big spikes of onboarding, like at very high rates that are not sustainable, versus trying to like hit the max that somebody would need to do like your exabyte in a year. Yeah, all to say, I don't have strong opinions here.
But wouldn't this, like, I'm not sure either, but wouldn't it favor like miner who focus on fast sealing, and then like put miners who are actually onboarding real storage at a disadvantaged position?
Why?
Just because now like the because like it takes time to get real storage use cases, and like miners who can scale very fast and like at high volume can stand to benefit more from this change than like in some way people are bottlenecked by like the number of pre-commit that you can do.
No,
It's
I don't
unclear
think
to me at the moment, but
I don't think so. I'm happy to explain. So if a miner does generate, so this change only allows miners that can commit multiple things at the same time to pay and to amortize their gas costs. So even if you have deals, what you will do, you will just pre-commit these deals at the same time. Sorry, pre-commit these sectors at the same time.
yeah, but we are in some way introducing some kind of structural force that favors miner who can do that more than like miners who can't. Right, like the advantage will come. Yeah, I will comment on the issue. Yeah,
we can discuss there because I think this may be a longer conversation, and you're saying that there's an advantage, and what we should do, we should calculate what's the advantage.
Correct.
And here we're talking about gas cost, and it's like in the grand scheme, there are other parts that are more expensive than this gas cost. So in my opinion, I would still make this pass just to save chain capacity, which everyone will have problems if the blocks are full. Happy to discuss this more in depth. I don't think this is enough. We may not have enough time to discuss this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. We can take the rest of that to the discussion, discussion of the actual PR. But cool. Sounds like there's yeah, some progress happening there. Cool. All right. Yeah, so the next item we had here was some of the so I believe that's all of the open FIP PRs. We'd already discussed FIP 5 and moved that one to accepted, and it just finished its last call period over the past week. So that one is, I believe, speaking of open state upgrades, FIP 5 is on track to be included in the next state upgrade that is happening in Lotus. Magic, I don't know if now is a great time to talk about state upgrades or if you'd rather do it in the Lotus update, but I believe there is. Friedel is here as well also to talk about the proofs update going into our next state upgrade once that one's ready.
Yeah, I can do it in Lotus today.
Cool. Okay. Then maybe we hop quickly to test vectors update, and then we'll hop back to that. Well, is there anything test vector related you want to discuss?
Yeah, sorry, had a hiccup with video there. We are so a little progress. Personally, me personally, and the rest of the team are dedicating that time to a few things that we need to land. But what's in the pipeline is creating a few more TBX commands that we discussed in the last update. TBX Project concretely that is gonna allow us to migrate existing test vectors to new network versions to make sure that new network versions are also regression tested. Right now, this is the missing link. As we keep adding new network versions and we keep adding protocol versions and forks and so on, we might lose coverage. So this is the one really critical aspect that we need to land, and we're aiming to land it this week, by the end of this week. There's already a work in progress here, but it is not visible because it hasn't been pushed. But this will hopefully land as expected by the end of this week. That's pretty much it. And then we do have block sequence vectors, which are constantly being deferred due to other priorities, but we know that they're super important, and others are also waiting for them. So hopefully we'll be having some bandwidth for that in the next week.
Awesome. Any questions for Raul about test vector things? Cool. Actually, let's take a half second and Maxim, Do you want to maybe ask any of your GraphSync questions now? Because I know Hannah has another meeting that she needs to run to.
Yeah, sure. I think we have
Thanks.
Ruslan on board who can elaborate a little bit more than me. Ruslan, please.
Hello. So we've got a question about libp2p, particularly about Go GraphSync implementation. From the code base, we see that Go GraphSync implementation has a listener to accept the incoming connections, and also it opens the connections to communicate with other hosts. So the part that accepts connection is a single function that takes the incoming connection and just reads the messages from it in a loop. So it does not move these connections in some other place, like for caching the existing link. And the other function that connects is using the newly created connection only for writing things. So it's like the connections are used only in single directions, despite that the P2P connections usually can be used in both directions. So we wanted to clarify if this is the way it works, and if it's so, what are the reasons not to use the connection in both sides, or reading and writing?
Yeah, that you are correct in that interpretation. It's possible you could hold connections in terms of, you know, making sure to reuse them. However, in terms of making it like more request responsey, like there's specific, the GraphSync is specifically designed not to be a request response protocol. Any message can include either include a request, a response, or multiple requests or multiple responses, or both. And so and essentially it's designed similar to Go BitSwap in that way. And so we don't hold the connections so that we can attempt to respond on them. They're only unidirectional. And one thing, when you're designing, in terms of making it bidirectional, that's definitely something we could do. But one thing that is important when you're designing the implementation is that it needs to be able to process multiple requests and multiple responses in a single message. And there's certain implications for that as well, namely that like if you're sending multiple responses at once and they contain the different responses contain the same block, they may they can choose to deduplicate it and only send the block once. There's also and then like if you have two responses to the same peer going at the same time and you cross the block in separate messages, you need to at least be able to handle the possibility on the receiving side that that block will get deduplicated. It's not deduplication is not a requirement of the protocol, but it is supported, you know, essentially at any point in the protocol. So yeah, that's sort of my take. I believe that GoBits has the same behavior, though no, I haven't looked at the code recently. Yeah, so.
Ruslan, does that answer your question? Any follow-ups?
Okay, as I understood, it's the reasons are in BitSwap, so we should study BitSwap. And also, it does not affect much the implementation, but just a detail to remember and not to forget to use it in single direction. Yep.
Quick question for you. How are you testing interoperability between the Go implementation and your implementation of GraphSync?
Current testing scenario is starting Lotus node and our miner node. So, and they perform the storage and retrieval deal. So, yeah, they use interoperable API, and also for the deals, GraphLink is required.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. The reason why I was asking is because we have a bunch of Testground test plans for testing GraphSync, which currently stress test GraphSync, the Go GraphSync. I know it would be a little bit of a detour for you guys if you're given that you're implementing in C++, but if you manage to integrate your implementation into Testground using a C++ SDK, then you would be able to benefit from all the test plans that have been written to test interoperability of only GraphSync without having to do kind of like the whole deal flow. Just a thought out there.
Thank you.
Okay, seems like definitely a good point that we can investigate more thoroughly. Can we? I'm not sure if I'm aware about the Testground that you mentioned. Where can I take a look on it?
Send me a message on the Filecoin Slack, and I'll get you started with a bunch of resources.
Okay.
Yeah, just for context, Testground is a project that Rahul built along with a lot of other folks, which we've used really heavily in IPFS libp2p and now Filecoin to do kind of simulation of distributed networks and stress test a lot of cases. And especially it's been useful in Filecoin because, you know, we can be running lots of awesome test nets, and there's some things that we still don't hit on chain, surprise, surprise. And we want to test those edge cases as well, or at scales that, you know, we haven't actually reached yet as a network. So Testground's been really useful for that. Cool, awesome. Thank you, thank you. Then if that was our GraphSync question, then let's hop into implementations, and we can go into the next state upgrade for Lotus as well. Magic, do you want to give a little bit of an update of kind of where we're at, and we can also talk through what's coming in the next state upgrade?
Yeah, so there will be proofs upgrade which changes how we encode sectors in SDR slightly. That we will have code for in probably a few days. Other than that, we have a bunch of FAPs in progress of being implemented. That work is mostly happening in Spec Actors. So on our end, it's mostly just integrating changes from there. We have Wyatt here, so maybe he'll be able to give an update on that.
Yeah, really quick. It's just oh, sorry.
Go.
Yeah, really quick. It's just a few bug fixes. One in particular is going to migrate state to make the power actor actually reflect the total number of storage, the total amount of power represented in the power table's claims. A few bug fixes, and then a few FIPs. So the biggest one being FIP 5, which removes the unnecessary vesting and pre-commit that we went over a week or so ago. And that's it.
And also there's going to be one more bug fix, which I don't think it has an FAP, and we decided that it doesn't need to because it's a bug fix. It's fixing the problem where we run winning post on terminated sectors. As in, terminated sectors are included in the sector set that we use for winning post, and we will drop that behavior in network version, I think 7. Yeah, it's affecting basically all miners who have a non-trivial portion of terminated sectors. So other than that, Yeah, I expect this, like the whole upgrade code to be out either late this week or early next week. It will probably be out for a week at least before the upgrade triggers. So this time people will have longer to update.
Yeah, Friedel, do you want to talk at all about the proofs component of the upgrade? I think Magic was mentioning it a little bit.
Sure, I can mention a couple of things. So this is specifically 5.4 you're talking about, right? The one that has actual breaking changes.
I think probably both are useful to mention, just 5.3 and 5.4.
We've shipped 2 proof releases, 5.3.0 and 5.4.0. 5.3 is merged onto Lotus Master at this point, unless they reverted it in the last 24 hours. I hope not. 5.3 brings in mostly speed improvements. So this is now, we've done a lot of work on improving verification of snarks, which you will see. Those improvements are on the order of 8 to 12x of verification. So we're down to 2 milliseconds for winning post at this point for verification. So those most of those improvements are enabled by default. Important for everybody who's not consuming the Filecoin FFI directly using the Rust API or actually building the FFI themselves. There's now an additional flag in Rust. It's a feature flag, and the FFI layer, it's an environment flag, which enables Blast, which is a new backend for all elliptic curve operations, which uses a bunch of hand optimized assembly to make it go fast. And it's currently supported on x86 64-bit systems and ARM 64-bit systems. So if you build for those, you can include that. The reason it's not, it's the default, it simply is new. It's currently undergoing an audit, and so we want this to be deployed and tested a little bit before we switch over to default. But can enable it right now, and this roughly gives you another 2x of performance improvements usually on most of the snark operations, some other operations that will use elliptic curves. So that's 5.3. You should be able to consume that. Other than those additional flags, they're now available without any breaking changes, I believe. 5.4 has the breaking changes that were mentioned, which require actor changes to consume them. But it also has another feature that people might be excited about, which is it does finally include proving support on AMD GPUs. It is not as optimized yet as this code that we have for NVIDIA, but it is the first release that finally adds that. We had some issues in finally getting those worked out, so that's included. Yeah.
Cool. And just in terms of that state upgrade, I think Magic was saying that kind of aiming to get code out this week or early next week, have a week of time where people can like parse and integrate that, and then have the actual trigger epochs. And for this one, because of the proofs upgrade, which is just doing some bug fixing, there'll be 2 different state upgrade epochs for introducing the new proofs and then deprecating the like previous version. And so if there's any questions about that, I know that Friedel can help answer that, or probably that's maybe more of a Spec Actors thing. So maybe actually Wyatt would be a better person for the exact trade-off or changeover there.
One of us will know what to do, hopefully.
Perfect.
I just have a question. Did you say that there's gonna need to be a hard fork to use the new proofs? I'm just curious as to why.
For the 5.4.0, a network version bump. Why, Friedel, I don't know if either one of you two want to talk about that. I mean, I think it's just based on the computation change in proofs is it's non-compatible, which is why there needs to be like a changeover window.
Yeah.
So is there changes that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the ceiling part of the proof has an incompatible change, and so that's why, unfortunately, we had to introduce a new version.
So is this a change that's going to have to happen within actors, or is this a change that's going to happen like with the actual verifier node?
This happens on both sides. So the verifier will be able to, so the proofs code is able to verify both versions, all the old ones and the new ones, and the actors need to make sure to switch over to the new ones, but of course need to trigger the old verification for everything that exists currently on chain.
Gotcha.
On the actor side, it's pretty simple. It's just consuming. So the switchover is the somewhat hard part, but it's mostly just consuming these new seal proof types.
Awesome. Any other questions related to any of the Lotus updates here? All right, then. Maybe let's hop over to, actually, let's go with Venus. Switch up our order. Go ahead, Stephen, if you guys have an update on where things are at right now.
You're talking about Venus?
Yes. If you guys have any updates on kind of where you're at or what's coming next for you.
Okay. Yeah. After last meeting, we had done something to improve the chain synchronization. Yeah. Firstly, thanks Magic, we had started the snapshot and checkpoint in Lotus, and we implemented this in Filecoin. Yeah, I mean Velas, and now the Velas also support the snapshot, and we could synchronize the chain from a point. So yeah, it will be quite fast than before. And also, we have one person who is working on the test part. We fixed a lot of unit testing and also integrate the test vector. Now, I would say that we had passed about 75% or 80% of test cases of the test vector, which is very good. And also, we have done some support the forks. The different network versions.
Stephen, we're getting a little bit of feedback from your microphone. I don't know if it's rubbing against something.
Okay. Yeah. Now it's okay. Okay. So we also implement the network versions to support to support forks. So based on that, we will think that the chain synchronization will be much better than before. And actually, we also purchased two powerful hardwares in the computer. It's kind of slow actually. So we will think in next 2 weeks, perhaps we will have and achieve a milestone to sync all the chain to the mainnet, to the latest epoch. This is the current status. And also next we will support something like to support the JSON API, which is complete, which is compliant to the Lotus Lotus miner, so that we could have as a VLAS chain sinker, and also to work with Lotus miner, and we can combine them together to have one system for mining. So this is the first plan, and while we could integrate with the Lotus miner, and next time we will implement the VLAS miner, which is perhaps similar, but with some new features. And another thing is that we will implement a new component which is called a messenger. So this one is to make sure that messages can be pushed into the chain, and to guarantee that, and also it's kind of independent part, and it could also a saver to some other components, to just push the message to the messenger, and so it's like this. It's because the principle of the VLAS is to separate different parts of all the into different implementation. So okay. So the next, the major thing is also the chain synchronization. So we hope that we could have something done in next 2 weeks. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. That's super exciting. So being able to sync to the current mainnet epoch also has the Spec Actors v2. So have you guys actually already done the Spec Actors v2 upgrade for actors?
Not yet. But actually, right now, because we have the snapshot, and so we could have different person to working on the different different part of the whole chain, right? So we're working on that right now.
Awesome. Cool. Any questions for Stephen? Cool. Forrest, you guys want to go next?
Sure. I'll give you a quick update. So we basically are working towards like 3 major goals. One being just initially syncing with the space race for Actors v1 up until the network upgrade. Secondly, syncing with mainnet. And thirdly, integrating storage miner and markets. And so, I mean, we've been making great progress on syncing space race. We synced up to our previous, the export that we were using, which was height 1963. Austin's been grinding it out and making really good progress, and as has the rest of the team. We feel pretty good about this. We feel like there's been a lot of, we've tested a lot of things, and so we're working on getting a new export now, and then continue trying to sync up to the network upgrade. But we're hoping, because we've come so far, that there shouldn't be too many more issues to resolve at this point. Secondly, we're focusing on syncing with mainnet. And so in order to do that, we're doing the Actors v2 upgrade. We have moved all the types into another crate in order to facilitate this, but we haven't started making the actual changes. And we'll start doing that most likely after we get the initial sync done. Also, in order to sync with mainnet, some functionality that needs to be done is basically like processing the blocks that come over Gossip Sub and actually like staying in sync, because like our primary focus has been that initial sync. We are working on this. We're figuring out the best way to form tip sets from the incoming blocks and sync towards them. So we have somebody working on that. But otherwise, yeah, definitely after the initial sync, this is going to become our main focus. And lastly, markets and storage miner integration, we've been chipping away. We finished implementing the pay channel functionality, but since it's difficult to test without upgrading to V2 Actors, we've just left that as PR open. And after we land V2 Actors, we'll test that more thoroughly and then merge it. And then we're working on getting the storage miner and forest connection working, just been iteratively fixing problems. We're almost at the point where we can get it initialized, which I think is the big hump. So yeah, pretty close. Feeling pretty good overall. We've been chipping away. I don't know, Austin, do you have anything to add?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, just the reason for, just to kind of clarify, the reason we're holding off on starting the V2 upgrade is just for, we didn't want to lose the test coverage of all the conformance vectors we had. So, and also a lot of just like making sure that we can get all the coverage from all the transactions that happened during space raise. But yeah, we'll transition right after that happens.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Any questions for Amar or Austin? All right, then let's move on to Fohan.
Thanks. So as of Fohan, we were busy with emergently big PR, which is a big refactoring of the chain sync stuff and partially graph sync, and all basically it's a big layer of connectivity which was not yet been merged. We are still in the process, but a lot of stuff have merged and we had to fix it, namely the graph sync update issues, also the chain sync stuff. We have also integrated Spec Actors v2. We have integrated them, but not yet switched, basically for the pretty much the same reason as the Forest guys. We still need to test all the integration. Well, basically how good it will work after the integration of Spec Actors v2. I'm not sure I have mentioned previously, but we have decided that we will move on with developing our own version of Actors. Currently, we had done init cron account, and just today we have finished with the market actor. So we are still we are getting close to really big ones, the minor actor and all the other big ones. Oh, market is one of them, but this is only the first one. And what we are currently working is, as previously Ruslan mentioned, we are debugging the retrieval deal and making it work the whole flow. And in parallel, still working on updating the actors to be compatible with latest versions. Yeah, and as we are implementing our own version of actors, we are switching them one by one to be for Fohan to be working with the actual version written on C++ and not ported from the CGO actors. That's mostly it from my side.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Maxim? All righty then. All right, next on the agenda was to review any changes to the FIP process itself, but we don't have any PRs or issues for that. So moving right along. It looks like we don't have a deep, maybe we have David just to talk a little bit about external security audits for the various implementations and kind of when different groups feel like they might be ready. We've been chatting a little bit with some of the folks that we work with, have worked with on auditing, doing security audits of Lotus, and would love to encourage different groups as you get to a point where the code is settling enough that this would be useful to also do security audits. So David, I don't know if you want to.
No, I think you pretty much covered it, Molly. And so just like to give just a little bit more detail. As you know, and as you can see on the Spec website, we actually have multiple audits by different security firms, from Waste Authority to NCC to Sigma Prime and more. And these audits typically come when there is any significant release, or when a significant release is going to happen, or when we make a significant change on the code base, right? And so we have worked with multiple security firms that have different sets of expertise to make sure that the right code gets reviewed by the right people. And so given that, well, these other implementations of Filecoin are emerging, it would be very good and very valuable if we could know kind of like the timeline in which we want to announce this to the world, as in here's this new implementation, to have an audit beforehand. And given that we already have these teams that are ready, that are familiar with Filecoin, that have audited the reference implementation, they can do a more complete job auditing these other implementations as well. And so for us, if you can give us kind of like a month and a half heads up, that would be ideal. A month, we can also try to make it work. Ultimately, we are always very dependent on the security firm's availability and their team's availability as well. So the sooner the better. And if there is already like a timeline that we could like try to align and then try to adjust as things progress, that also works well. And we do, as Protocol Labs, we do have some capacity right now to sponsor these audits, at least like a first iteration, especially given that those implementations will be released for the first time. So the ask is keep us on the loop, let us know what you have. Let's make sure that these implementations get audited. Let's make sure to get everything fixed before releasing, making the release. And then like, let's be good citizens of the open source community and publish these reports so that people know what was audited, how, and by whom.
And I'll add to that you know, of course, all of the work that we are doing is a moving target. And so there's never a like, great, we're code frozen. This blockchain will never upgrade, never add any more features or changes. And so we're, you know, because we're always going to be a moving target and that's expected, we shouldn't block on like a finished state before doing an audit. We should, you know, snapshot as of a time when we've, you know, the code base has solidified for a set of functionality, audit that, and then continue having additional audits that kind of cross over whatever has changed between spaces. So Lotus has done that, for example, of having lots of different audits at different times, which cover additional functionality. So I don't know if anyone has any early signal on when you'd flag that you might be ready for a like an audit that covers kind of, you know, either through Actors v2 or through some period of time. But I know that there's maybe some availability to be freeing up in like the early December timeframe, if anyone would be ready around that time.
Exactly. Well, I see some people nodding, some people thinking.
I see Amber coming off mute. Perfect.
Yeah. I think like thanks for sharing all that information. It gives us a lot of clarity, and I think, you know, we don't know the exact timing when we'll be ready, but it may not be far off of that. But yeah, we'll have to discuss as a team and see how we're doing. But I'll be in touch with you, and we can organize that.
Awesome. Yeah, like either ping me, Molly, or Deep. He typically joins these calls as well, and so we can then take your signal and make it happen.
Awesome. Thanks for the support.
Molly, you're muted.
Thank you. That was a quiet, anyways, I think you can lip read what I was saying there. Anyways, what I was trying to say was, I don't think they're ready yet to bring to this meeting, but there are a number of open issues in the FIP repo that are discussing some proposals. So thank you, Stephen, for writing one up. And there's, I think also, oh yeah, there's one by Sarah for implementing a tiebreaker for forks of equal weight. So there's a couple of open issues that are proposals potentially for creating a FIP that don't yet have a FIP. So nudge for this group to kind of discuss there. And if you have any questions or want to talk about things real time, we can also use the implementation channel in Phil Slack to coordinate additional discussions. But I think the general practice is once things get to a FIP state, we'll bring them to a forum like this. But while they're still in issue discussion space, we'll discuss async with the community there.
And Molly, I think for the issue I submitted, which is about the return value, to add the return value to withdraw balance. I think Alex has a comment is that if this should go through the FIP process or just implement into the system. So we I think is a process issue.
That's a good question. Generally, our practice, like the way that we've been thinking about the FIP process, is that anything that is either has like a design component to it, where it's like there's design questions, or there's security or crypto economics questions. We want to make sure that teams have an opportunity to discuss and review on that. All of those things should go through a FIP process, even if it's, a small improvement or a small optimization. But things that are bug fixes or things that are like logistics, but not features and wouldn't have that level of like discussion, the additional effort of going through a FIP process is like maybe minimal versus just going ahead and doing it. I'd be thumbs up if folks in this room agree as well, in like being like, great, this sounds like an update to the spec and we should just do it, and we should not require folks to do a FIP process for this sort of a change. So
yeah, and I agree that but okay, sometimes for example okay, like this issue is kind of a little change of the minor actor actually about the protocol, but it's also very minor, and it's not like this big big modification updating is not like this, but so we should have a clear definition about which one should go through the FIP process and which one for this one. I say there are many, and actually the FIP perhaps 05, 06 are very small, right? So okay.
Yeah,
I would think that that would be great. There is a very clear definition. Okay.
I completely agree. Okay, I'll try and add something to the FIP repo itself, where we describe like what should go through a FIP that clarifies that stance, and everyone can review it there as well. That like tries to encode like our existing mental model for things that are like bug fix or like minimal, like small technical improvement versus feature. It's a fuzzy line, and so we're trying to walk it. I think we're always gonna have a but we'll try and make it as clear as possible so that it's easy for everyone to diagnose that. But I think this sounds like the specific change you're proposing sounds like implementate, like probably having an open issue for this in the Lotus Spec Actors repo, and then we can all kind of generally change to have that correction or improvement accuracy to all of our actors implementations without doing a full FIP around it. Yeah, I agree with we should have a good definition of what needs a FIP, and that ideally this level of change clearly does not need a FIP and can just be a coordinated small improvement and bug fix.
Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, I'll write that to do down for myself. Cool, we're at 2 minutes left. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to discuss with this group? Alrighty then. Cool. Well, that is the end of our meeting for the week then. Thank you all so much, and we'll see everyone here again in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
So.
Cheers.